Batman is an icon. No matter your age or your interests, I can guarantee that you at the very least know who Batman is. However, the particular piece of media that comes to your mind when I mention Batman is completely different from person to person. For some, it's the original comics, for others it's the Adam West show, but for me, it's one thing. This video game. So today, to feel something in my mid-20s, we are going to 100% complete it. Okay, I love Batman. I had Batman-themed birthday parties, I have Batman action figures, I had a Batman costume that I wore well outside of Halloween with a Velcro cape that stuck to my back and a little utility belt with batarangs, and you bet your ass I had Batman Legos. I was already a fan of Batman before this game came out because I had watched reruns of the animated series, but this particular piece of media was the one that truly made me fall in love with the Bat. I was gonna play this game anyways because it was next up in the series of getting 100% on every Lego DS game, which I may have taken a little, hiatus from. We're back with it now though. But for the moment that I even had the idea for this series, this game was the one that I was the most excited to talk about. Batman is an interesting thing to be a fan of because it can be really overwhelming to actually get into. Well, if you want to read the current story with the new 52 Batman, you can start there. But if you want the modern one, you gotta start with Batman Year One. But there's also Detective Comics 27. Just play this game. Just play this game. I swear to God, this gives you everything. Just play this game and it will get you there, I promise. This game does a shockingly good job representing the many different eras of Batman through the original comics all the way up to more contemporary shows like Teen Titans. There was no piece of Batman media that was off limits when creating this game, and because of that, I think anyone could find something that they're familiar with within the game. For reference, there are characters in this game that were created before Hawaii was a United States state, alongside characters that didn't debut until after Jacob Sartorius was born. I'm talking about Reach. This is a huge contrast to the first two Traveler's Tales Lego game series, but I think part of that contrast is what makes me like this one so much more. With Star Wars and Indiana Jones, the devs were given a much stricter script to follow, given that they were making direct adaptations of films that already existed. With Batman, they were able to create an entirely original story, which, while liberating, I'm sure must have also been just terrifying given how massive Batman is as a franchise, but somehow they did it. They hit it with perfection. I'm still so impressed by this, but this game somehow feels more expansive and better contained than any of the Lego games before that. Despite the scope that I've referenced with how broad Batman is, this game still feels extremely focused. Each level has a distinct purpose within the story makes sense. I felt in some of the previous games there were levels that existed just because they were part of their respective movies but weren't really interesting levels. That was not a problem here because each level was conceptually designed from the ground up by the devs themselves, which just gives this additional layer of intentionality to every moment in the game that you really feel. At the time this game was being worked on, Traveler's Tales was coming off this massive success that Lego Star Wars was, and they did not know what to do next. They were able to secure a deal with Warner Brothers to start making a Batman game, which was this game, but 6 months into the development of that game, the studio got bought out by Lego, and then most of the team working on Batman moved over to Indiana Jones to coincide with the release of the Shia LaBeouf movie. But this history is the reason that Lego Indy and Lego Batman share so many of the same elements, like the blue block puzzles, the grappling hook, some of the character abilities. These games always felt eerily similar to me as a kid, but now I actually understand why. The other thing I want to highlight in this little intro section that I think was really well done was the visual style of this game, because I think it's one of the more compelling things about it. Rather than leaning into the grittier, darker Batman that was starting to gain traction around the time this game released, the developers very intentionally decided to portray Gotham as this vibrant, neon-lit city, kind of like the animated series or the Tim Burton movies, but this choice works so well with Lego. It gives it such a distinct vibe and a feel that, honestly explains probably why I still light my room this way to this day. It's just cozy, I love it. But without further ado, I think I have yapped enough, and it is time to actually boot up the game and get into it.
This is the one. This is the game that I have been the most excited to talk about. This is the game that made me love Lego games. I am so excited to do this. It's so good.
From the moment that I launched this game, I was slapped in the face with a massive wave of nostalgia. The menu itself is actually still really cool, the way that it uses both of the DS's screens and then slowly reveals the shot of Batman standing up on the tower in front of the moon. It's beautiful. And the nostalgia just continued heading into the Batcave.
But there's no music in the hub. There's music in the levels sometimes, but in the hub area, There's no like it's just.
Here you can find all the features that you would expect of a LEGO hub world, with the extras and characters on the Bat computer and levels behind a series of doors. However, a fun, unique addition to this game is the inclusion of Wayne Manor. The Wayne Manor. That's it.
Yo. This was my safe space as a kid. Like, I'm not even kidding. That's not even a bit. That's not like a woke bit. I would just come here and hang out sometimes. Oh, right, because you could get hella studs in here. That's the other thing. Yeah, I remember now.
So the first villain that we have to deal with in this game is the Riddler, who has gathered Clayface, Mr. Freeze, and Two-Face, and Poison Ivy to help him steal the gold reserves from this island bank off the coast of Gotham that does not exist. And I looked this up, by the way. I was like, it does not exist in any other piece of Batman media. They made it up for this game because I was like, there's no fucking way there's a gold bank off the coast of Gotham. I don't think... Let me double check that right now. Hold on. Gotham Gold Bank. Gotham, they made it up. They made it up.
I'll freeze the ocean so we can get over to it. And Poison Ivy will grow a plant so we can go up there. Yep. I haven't played this game in 10 years. I just remember. And he gets the key somehow. I don't know. I'm not sure what gives Clayface key qualifications, but that's his special power, I guess.
Story is delivered through these comic book-like panels, which are unique to this game, but are such an awesome feature that I think gets overlooked when discussing these old LEGO games. Like, not only do they effectively tell the story without the use of any text or any sound effects, it's all just music, but they're also actually really well done pieces of art, like, outside of the game. They're just so full of life and color, and I want to focus on these for a moment. I'm going to be showing them throughout the game, but they're just so cool, and I wanted to highlight the artwork that went into creating this. It's beautifully done. Moving into the level itself, oh my god. I know this sounds crazy, but I genuinely want to cry talking about this level. If there is a single level in any video game that is burned into my brain from my childhood, it is this one. For some reason, I so distinctly remember the feeling of playing through this area for the very first time, using the touchscreen on this lever, using the bat suit to cross this alley for the first time.
So you get the wingsuit and you fly over this gap, but just my child eyes were agape. When I first saw this, I was like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my life. And this is it. I can die now. I'm 8 years old, but I can die now because I've seen everything I need to see.
I don't have a lot of solid memories from being as young as I was when I played this game, but the first moments with this game are something I will never forget. The rest of the level is just you moving through the streets of Gotham, which, given the level name, like, what are we, some kind of Gotham Street? And it's funny because for the first two rooms, leaving such an intentional impression on me, I cannot remember for the life of me any of the second half of this level. Like, there's a boss fight against Clayface at the end, but for some reason the latter half just didn't really leave much of a memory. But the very first half, it's just, that's in there. I love it. That is this game to me. After that boss fight against Clayface, the level ends. However, now we get to look at something fun that is unique to this game, which is the villain side of the same mission. If you're not aware, most of the levels in this game are metered between the hero and villain stories, with a lot of them sharing rooms and environments between the two, even down to keeping the same panels and switches between the levels. You can actually see stuff you interacted with as a villain in the hero side because they happen chronologically first, and because of that chronological order, I think it makes the most sense to talk about both sides of the level as one thing, starting with the villain and then moving chronologically until when the heroes show up. But anyway, yes, moving forward, we're going to go villain, then hero, talk about it as one cohesive level. This works better. I tried it the other way. It doesn't work. Just trust me on this. Anyway, Mission 2 is called the Ice Cream Factory, and it focuses on Mr. Freeze and the Riddler attempting to steal a giant freeze gun from the Gotham ice cream plant, because apparently a giant freeze gun is crucial to ice cream making at the Gotham ice cream plant. But this is a good level, mostly because it is based around the absolute best design LEGO minifigure of all time, Mr. Freeze. Ooh, it's my guy. That's my guy. Oh my god. My goat. I love this character so much. Oh my god. And look at this. He freezes him and then it's a two-shot. and he looks like this. Tell me this design isn't peak. Tell me this design isn't peak Lego. You can't. It is so bold. It is so iconic. The only other figure that comes even close to me is the original Boba Fett, but this is just peak Lego design that I'm afraid they will never come back to. Anyway, the villain side of this mission has you playing as the Blue Man himself, making his way into the factory, dodging spouts of cold air that Mr. Freeze is immune to, and then solving these blue block puzzles, and making your way to the center room with the freeze gun. These giant pink vats of ice cream always stuck in my head as a kid. Like, I actually don't think I'd eat that. I wouldn't eat anything that gives off a glow like an RGB gamer's room. No thank you. And eventually you make it to the main freeze gun room and get swatted. Whoa! Oh, sick! You fight off all the guards, get to the freeze gun, but before you have time to celebrate, our heroes show up to save the day. The hero side of the mission is far more compelling than the villain side in my mind. Some of the memorable parts of this level are this giant snowman that you have to build cones to go through. And this level also introduces Batman's freeze suit, which allows him to pass through cold areas, but also is just one of the coolest looking suits in the game. Otherwise, this level is pretty much the same as the villain side, with the cold air, the blue bricks, the same obstacles. The boss fight against Mr. Freeze is honestly pretty lackluster, with you needing to swap between suits to get him off of these tubes before fighting him on foot. But I thought it was neat that the way you defeat Mr. Freeze is basically a mirror to the end of the villain level. Like, instead of turning on these panels like you did as a villain, you're then disabling them. Fun reuse of elements. And after the boss fight, Mr. Freeze tries to run, but not before Batman gets a lucky shot on him that causes him to chill out. Sorry I wrote that. But in the chaos, the Riddler takes off with the freeze gun and drives away as Two-Face's passenger princess. And speaking of passenger princess, up next we got our first vehicle mission. These are an absolute highlight in the game. I adore them so much. They're basically the same idea as the vehicle sections that were included in Lego Indiana Jones DS, but they're even faster paced and easier to follow, which just makes them infinitely better. For these missions, I'll talk about the hero and villain in tandem because they're basically the same level with a slightly different vehicle and a slightly different objective. As a villain, you're being chased by Batman. If you go too slow or crash, he can catch up to you, which just instantly ends the level. And then as Batman, you are rewarded a Joker card, which is a pickup type in the game. I will get to this in the extra section, but you're awarded a Joker card if you can catch up to the villain before they reach to the end of the stage. Simple. This particular mission is based on the Batmobile Two-Face's escape set, which is just so cool to see the both representations of an actual playset in the video game. On the hero side, you get to drive the iconic Lego Batmobile, and for the villains, you get to drive Two-Face's armored truck, which I always thought looked so badass even as the physical set. All in all, these vehicle missions are a really refreshing intermission to break up the standard levels. They're really short, they're really quick, they're just long enough that you find them fun, but not so long that they get boring. They're well done. And regardless of the side you play on, the story result of the mission is the same, with Batman causing the villains to crash before they get bailed out by their dealer, Poison Ivy, and escape. In the next mission, Ivy takes the boys back to her private gardening facility. What the fuck was that sound of? Did they just mic up an old man falling down? What was that sound? Here they can get the seeds needed to climb the walls of the bank. This level introduces pools and clouds of poison, which act similarly to the cold areas in the Mr. Freeze level, where only particular characters like Poison Ivy are able to go through them. I always love the colors in this level, like the red tones contrasted with the toxic green always stood out to me. It's pretty, it's really well done. The orange kind of reminds me of Cloud City. It's nice. Another part of the level that I thought was cool was this area where you get to grow these plants into steps. This interaction with the environment is not only just fun, but also a really obvious and fitting thing to put in a mission based around a character like Poison Ivy. And the level ends with Poison Ivy and the Riddler finding the plant they were searching for, with all seeming well until Batman and his meddling friends show up. For the hero side, this level introduces what I think is the coolest looking suit for Robin, which is kind of like a foil to Batman's ice suit, but rather than protecting you from cold areas, it protects you from toxic things like your ex-situationship. And we still have the live Miku reaction, can't forget that. Probably don't need to mention it again because it's nearly the same as the villain side of the level, but the colors here, again, are just really gorgeous and well done. The section where you drain the pool of water always stuck in my head for some reason, and of all the levels in this game, this one actually made me feel kind of bad because part of what you do on the hero side is that you have to poison the plants that Ivy grew. Like, I guess Batman's no-kill rule doesn't apply to plants, and the mission ends with the Riddler yet again narrowly escaping while leaving his sidekick behind. Like, what a terrible boss. I would not want to work for him. Okay, for this next level, there is one memory that I have associated with this level more than anything else, and it is that my best friend at the time rage baited me so hard on this level that I started crying. Hold on. The level itself is the big final heist into Gotham's gold bank, but there's a particular section in this level with these lasers, and it was this! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god, it was this. It was this. It was this. Because I can't, what would happen? He already made it to the other side, and when you get to the other side, you can do this and turn it off. But what you can also do is turn it back on while your friend is standing inside of it. So he kept fucking doing to the point I started crying. I don't know how many times he actually did it, but I was just like, fucking let me through, goddammit! The level starts outside the main bank with you needing to drop a cartoonishly large money sign that would obviously be sitting outside of a bank onto a fence to get inside. Once inside, I was really impressed with the design of this bank. Like, the metallic bright colors give it this fortress type of feel, and it does a really good job selling the scale that you're robbing this giant vault. It almost feels like the interior of the Death Star. It's really good. Although my main memory with this level was me crying my ass off, I do think that the laser section is one of the cooler parts of the entire game. Similar lasers are featured in another room in this level where you have to dodge your train fare by jumping over a railing. Just tapping into that Mission Impossible-esque laser dodging thing, like the spy feel, really makes this level feel like a heist, and just, I remember pretending to be a spy is just cool as a kid, so this was cool. The final area in the mission has you swatted again before you jump around this giant key-like area that can rotate between platforms. Like, again, just great job selling the scale of this thing. You do a blue block puzzle in this area, and every time I've said blue block puzzle, I've stumbled over it. Try saying blue block puzzle. I can't, try saying that 10 times fast, you can't do it. But you do a blue block puzzle in this area, and then get lifted into the main vault, just as you'll never guess who arrives. The way the hero side of this mission starts is actually entirely different than the villain side, with you starting down on the beach of the island, and then slowly making your way up to the main bank. I really like this difference, and in my mind, it makes the hero side much more memorable than the villain, just because natural environments are so hard to come by in this game, so being able to jump around a natural-looking cliffside that feels like it was almost an unused part of an Indiana Jones stage feels really unique and special.
Did you just say you niggas are special?
What? The second half of this stage is pretty similar to the other side, except Batman actually paid his fare and doesn't have to jump. And the boss fight against Two-Face I think might be my favorite in the game. You get to play one of those TikTok claw machines, but with a Lego dude's life. It's great. You get 2 switches to move this money bag left or right, and have to throw a batarang to drop it. The whole thing feels shockingly natural and just really fun to play with. That would kill you, like, instantly. I think it would only take 1 bag of gold bars dropping on someone's head before their health bar is empty. That's all. I don't know. After locking up Two-Face, or in my case, not locking him up. Oh. What? Wait, that counted? Hold on, I didn't get him. You move into this droid factory-esque section where you fight the real mastermind, the Riddler. I distinctly remember this area, like trying to jump up these gold press things or trying to dodge these flying walls of money bags. This is just a well-designed level that truly feels like a final boss fight for the act. Oh my god! I punched him so hard a cutscene started. Up next in Act 2, we're fighting the trash man himself, the Penguin. I remember this section of the game being my absolute favorite as a kid, just because the villains included are so sick to me. In the DS version, the villains are Bane, Catwoman, and Killer Croc. And side note, since I first saw him in this game, I have absolutely adored Bane. Like, I specifically collect the Nightfall series of Batman comics just because they are about him. And in this game, he has a gun for some reason. I'll take it. I also love Catwoman in this game because she has a whip that acts like Batman's grappling hook, but the animations are unique to her, which is pretty cool, and Killer Croc is sick too, but if you play the console version, you might notice that there's a character missing from this roster, which is Man-Bat. Yes, I'm sorry to all you monster fans, but unfortunately, Man-Bat and Killer Moth were both cute without the cut from the DS version story missions. That being said, they are still in the game, but they're in a mini-game that is exclusive to the DS version, which I will cover in the extra section, so hold on. Instead of just stealing gold, the Penguin's crew actually has a bit more of a sinister plan in mind, which is attempting to take over the world with exactly 1 million of these little penguin drones. Yeah, sure, fuck it. Speaking of my roided up king, this first level is entirely centered around him, as he and the penguin attempt to steal a radar dish from Gotham docks. The villain side of this mission is honestly quite boring, with you playing as the penguin and Bane making their way through some shipping containers and then fighting the SWAT team to get to the end of the level where the two of them load the dish into the penguin submarine and escape. I love that you get to play as Bane, again with a gun for some reason, but otherwise the level looks pretty much the same throughout and doesn't really feature any unique mechanics or areas. However, the hero side is where things get way more interesting. While most of the level is identical, the main difference that makes the hero side better is the boss fight at the end against Bane. The section where he tries to like trash compactor you between these shipping containers always stuck in my head. Get out of there, get out of there, get out of there, SpongeBob!
Robin's dead.
In the second half of the fight where we have to rage bait Bane into charging at you like a bull so he can give himself CTE, then you can drop boxes on him, is cool, I like it. This boss fight just feels like one of the better planned out and more dynamic fights in the game. Like both sections feel tense and interactive far beyond what I'd expect from most of these bosses, and I promise it's not just because I own this comic. This next level is my absolute favorite level in the game. To this day, one of the strongest memories I have in this game is sitting on my grandparents' shag carpet playing this exact level. Like, I specifically remember this part where the SWAT team comes down. It just triggers the memory every single time. They passed away some years ago, so it's kind of nice to be able to revisit that feeling in a small way by coming back to this area of the game. But even beyond my own connection to it, this level is actually one of the more interesting ones. It begins, of all places, on the rooftops, with you playing as Penguin and Catwoman. In typical Catwoman fashion, this is a heist mission for a jewel, and so after scaling the roofs and fighting off the SWAT team, you get to crack open the windows of this museum. Inside, you get to dodge through these Mission Impossible type lasers, which are kind of like the ones from the other heist mission. Again, were just one of the coolest parts of this game to me as a kid. I also love this section where you get to build this massive dinosaur skeleton and use it as a staircase, because dinosaurs are sick and bones are sick, so dinosaur bones are sick times 6 squared. I think that's right. And the level ends with our two villains grabbing the prize gem and making off with it. On the hero side, it's basically more of the same running across the rooftops, but unlike the villain side, you don't actually go inside the museum. You instead get to explore more of the rooftops and then get to see some of these like Gotham City advertising billboards, like this Vote for Harvey Dent poster or the 3D ice cream billboard, which is kind of fun because it's advertising the same kind of ice cream from the plant that you fight Mr. Freeze in. It's just, I love these little details because they make the world feel a little more interconnected. The level ends with a boss fight against Catwoman where she jumps between these 3 platforms and you have to time pulling a lever to try to smoke her out. Now we're on our next vehicle mission, this time on the 7 Seas, or at least... Wait, I made that joke already? I made that joke in the LEGO Battles video? Oh, fuck. Now we're in a boat. This mission behaves the same as all the other vehicle missions, and by that I mean it's fun as shit. It's the same idea of running from Batman on one side and then chasing the villain on the other side with boosts and jumps. I don't really have anything to say unique about this mission just because I already covered all of my thoughts talking about the previous vehicle level, but this is still a blast. These missions are all fun. They're just not too different from each other, but so I'm not going to cover them too extensively, but they're really good. This next level features Killer Croc and the Penguin navigating through the most radioactive sewer I have ever seen in my life. Like, what in God's name are the people of Gotham eating that their sewage is glowing purple? After making your way through the sewer, you emerge from the ground, and at this point you're outside the prison where Catwoman is being kept, so you rip open a brick wall and make your way inside. In here you have to fight off some guards and do a short puzzle before freeing your friend. Weirdly, the thing I noticed the most about this level was not the level itself, but just how good these comic book panels at the very end were. Like, look at the lighting, the composition, the color. They were cooking with these. Over on the hero side, solid start to the level. Solid start. This level pretty much directly reuses sections from the villain side, more so than some of the other missions in this chapter. Like, it really feels like an extension of the first room in the villain side, but just dragged out to be the entire level. It ends with a boss fight against the Green Man himself, which is one of the simplest fights in the game. There's no puzzle, it's just alternating between fighting guards and then fighting the boss, which I know I sound disappointed about, but I honestly didn't mind because so many of the other fights had some gimmick to them, so just having a more standard fight in here actually felt like a good change of pace. But this next mission, Arctic World, is really cool. On the villain side, you start outside this massive gate and have to build the heads of these penguin statues before making your way into the main structure, alternating between gliding and using the penguin's umbrella and then using the Catwoman's whip to avoid the cold water below. The section where you get to freeze the pool was always really cool to me. Like, you basically just make a little ice rink. It's nice. And I gotta mention this geeked out fat penguin. Like, interesting choice of face texture. Memorable if nothing else. And the level ends with you opening the door to the control room where the penguin releases his army of drones to deliver Amazon packages, or whatever his plan was. The hero side of this mission mirrors the villain side almost exactly, but one of the main differences is the inclusion of this river with these moving icebergs where you have to time your jumps to get across. This section feels very Indiana Jones inspired, which, given the history I mentioned earlier in the video, actually makes a lot of sense. The arena where the boss fight happens is one of my favorites just because it's this strange triangular layout where you have to go off to the side and blow up these generators. It's one of the better boss fights in the game, in my opinion. After yoinking the diamond out of the machine, it explodes, causing all the robots to malfunction, leaving Danny DeVito defenseless. Look, that's some alliteration. Also, strange note, but this is the only one of the 3 stories where you don't actually get to fight the main villain. Like, there is no point in this area where you have to fight the penguin himself. You just beat him in the cutscenes. I thought that was weird. Let me at him. Why won't you let me play? I'm not mad. I'm just saying, why can't I punch him? I just want to punch him. I really like this chapter of the game. The aesthetics of the levels are great, especially the rooftops. I love the villains. Like, there weren't really any major letdowns. Some parts of the sewers weren't super interesting, but there was nothing explicitly bad here. I think this is a pretty solid mixture of levels. Alright, time to live in a society. I'm not gonna lie, this is the act of the game that I remember the least about, but with that being said, there are some absolute banger levels in here. Fuck that. I'm doing it live. I'm leaving it in. Speaking of not remembering this chapter, I totally forgot that this character and level were in the game at all. This level is based around the Joker and the Mad Hatter, of all characters, breaking into a chemical plant to create a toxin to mind control Gotham. I always felt like Mad Hatter's inclusion here was kind of an odd choice. Like, he's just a short character with a gun, but he has no other special abilities or moves or anything other than that, so he's kind of just a lamer version of the Penguin. I don't get it. The mission itself isn't bad, but at this point it feels a bit derivative of levels we've already seen before, specifically the ice cream factory. The section at the end where you have to match the colors to mix a vat of chemicals is always fun and stood out to me, but beyond this one section, this level's pretty forgettable. On the hero side, things aren't much more interesting. Like, the whole thing is really just a repeat of the ice cream factory, but with poison instead of ice. This is one of the few misses in this game, in my opinion. But this next level is an absolute standout in the game. I've played this one so many times. Not only does the level feature one of the best characters in DC, the animated series Harley Quinn, but it's also just a visually interesting level that takes you through a fun house of weird ideas, like this trippy spike room, or this main outdoor carnival area with the claw machine. Everywhere it feels like there's something to look at or interact with, and this is just a hard level to be bored while playing. They even have a room full of slot machines. Like, how could you not love this? The story of this mission is, I genuinely don't know. Unlike the other 2 villains, the Joker actually does not have a laid out plan. Like, it's genuinely, the intro cutscene, all it is get gas and use gas. But I guess that's a fairly Joker way to go about villainy, so it's fine, I'll let it slide. But specifically for this level, there is no reason that they're here. I seriously think they might have just been here to ride the roller coaster. They don't get an object from it, they don't take anything, I don't know why this level exists. I'm happy it's here. But now to the hero side, which is where I think the level truly gets to show off how cool it is. The cutscene at the start shows us Batman and Robin tracking our villains to the amusement park before we witness a crime and have to lay down the law. From the very first room, you get a sense of what this level is going to be. From the fortune teller in the center, to the crash roller coaster cart, to the giant clown head, this level is just over the top and absurd in the absolute best ways. The next room you enter continues these whimsy-pilled vibes with a prize booth that you have to destroy with a little batarang shooting range, and there's even a love boat for the Batman and Joker to live out their fantasies together. But even with all of that, we are not at my favorite part of this level. After the love boat ride, you enter this room where you get vored by a giant clown before going into this puzzle area where you're meant to avoid these clown panels and make your way across the room. This room is covered with the same trippy moving textures from the villain side, which were always so strange to me, but they're just cool. I can't think of an area in any other LEGO game that even looks close to this. And just in case this level wasn't already awesome enough, there's a little droid Bread Factory moment with these giant blocks that can crush you. But my absolute favorite part of this level is the boss fight at the end. I don't know why, but I remember that the fact that you could stand on a roller coaster track was just the coolest shit in the world to me as a child. Don't ask me why. The fight itself is actually one of the better ones, with you needing to dodge the Joker as he has a fun day at the boardwalk. All in all, this is a masterclass of a Lego level, just absolute cinema. So you know what I said about the other vehicle missions? That is still true here. However, this one is slightly different because there are more obstacles and it's a little bit harder to see where you're going, and that's mostly because this game lags so bad during this mission. I don't think I've ever seen the DS's performance tank quite this bad in a game, and my guess is just it's because there's so many things going past the screen so quickly that it's struggling to render everything. But this isn't an issue on any of the other vehicle missions, so I guess they just balled out really hard on this plain one for no reason. And random side note, this Batwing is the only Lego from this original Batman line that I had, and the helicopter with the missile that came with it, the missile that was inside the Batwing was awesome, but the helicopter had this little, like, ladder, this rope ladder that the Joker would hang on with a bang gun. It's awesome. It's so good. And this next level is just another banger. After Scarecrow 9/11s the plane into a nearby building, it's your job as the Joker and Scarecrow to make your way into an art gallery. The layout of this area feels very similar to the museum featured in the rooftops, but is particularly cute because it includes a bunch of Lego versions of famous paintings, like they got the Mona Lisa and American Gothic. I took an art history class. Yeah, I know the name of a couple paintings. Yeah. The activity of what you do in this level is really similar to all the rest in that you're just pulling levers and solving puzzles, but something about the aesthetic of this level always appealed to me, like the contrast of this blood red carpet against a more natural wood tone. Wood is a cool visual element in a game that doesn't often attempt to look very realistic. I also like the inclusion of this statue being used to block a door because you do the exact same thing in Indiana Jones, even further highlighting some of the similarities between these games. The rest of the level has you work in a night shift loading these trucks with the SWAT team before you finally walk into the black room that makes Harley Quinn appear. And for as much as I've already praised this level, this might come as a shock, but the hero side I'd say is even better. Most of the level is the same, but what makes this one so fun is the boss fight against Scarecrow at the end. Periodically throughout the fight, Scarecrow will release his fear toxin, which causes Batman and Robin to start seeing all of the enemies as spooky, scary skeletons with this trippy green wobbly filter applied over the screen. These drugged out sections were always so cool to me as a kid. Like, this is such a cool way to convey that your character is under the influence of the fear toxin. Also, these skeleton models aren't used anywhere else in the game, so it's kind of cool seeing them here, but it's a little uncanny because they are not anywhere else in the game, so the first time you see him, it's like, what the fuck? Once the skeletons are defeated, you could pull these levers to clear out the gas and beat up Scarecrow, who instantly rats out his allies. Like, I guess there's a reason he has so many stitches. And the Cathedral, a absolutely perfect ending to this game. If I could describe this level in one word, it would be grand. Like, it's just big and powerful. You start outside at the base of the Gotham Cathedral and have to scale your way up I said outside twice in that sentence. And then the next sentence starts with the outside of the cathedral. Fuck off. The exterior of the cathedral is made entirely out of this cracked stone, but the mixture of orange and purple lighting that they use throughout the section just feels so quintessentially Batman. Once you're inside the castle, these vibes continue with old paintings and candles sprawled throughout this massive cathedral that you now have to jump your way through. You eventually make your way to this massive wooden spiral staircase where you need to use the Joker to jump ahead before extending the steps out to get Harley to follow. This section was always so damn cool to me as a kid because you go up 3 or 4 flights of stairs, but it's all within one room where you can actually drop all the way back down if you want. Like, I know I mentioned the heist at the end of Act 1 does a good job selling scale. This one does an even better job because it's actually all contained in one room, which is pretty sick. Once you're at the top of the tower, you get to work setting up the 1984 brainwashing machine and pull 2 levers to start the countdown. And right at this moment, the hero side of the story begins, with Batman and Robin showing up just in time. This level is another that reuses a ton of areas between the hero and villain sides of the level. Like, I actually think the only difference is where you enter the cathedral, but once you're inside it, all of the rooms are almost identical. That being said, these areas are so cool, and I really don't mind revisiting them for a final level. I think it actually kind of makes sense because it's more of a direct mirror of the 2 levels, having them be 2 sides of the same story. It's cool. The same really cool staircase section is featured here, after which you make it to the control room where you get to fight the big man himself.
I remember actually being kind of freaked out when I did this fight as a kid, because I was like, oh my god, he has twice as much health as every other dude I've fought. This is scary.
During the fight, Mr. You're in pain, you're insane, I can tell from what you're saying, engages you on foot while Harley sits up above and snipes down at you. Once you do enough damage, the Joker jumps back up above and you have to pull these levers simultaneously to give him a shock and make him jump back down. This battle truly feels like a final boss fight to the entire game, and it wraps up everything so nicely. Once the Joker is defeated, his machine explodes, leaving the two clowns at the will of Batman, who they actually show in such a creepy way at the end of the game. Like,
Shut the fuck up. That's the last frame? And that's crazy. That's such a hard last frame.
rather than ending on a celebratory shot of Batman and Robin being a family and hanging out, saving the day, they show this like Batman Beyond-ass silhouette shot of Batman being the devil himself. It's not very Lego, but it's extremely Batman, and honestly I think it was a perfect decision. And that is the entire story, but not the entire game, because we still have to look at the extras and the collectibles, as well as a few bonus modes that are exclusive to this version of the game, so let's get to that. The first and most obvious thing that you need to do to 100% this game is find all of the Minikits. Thankfully, they went easy on us this time, with there only being 5 Minikits per level. Multiply that by 30 levels for a total of 150 Minikits. That might seem like a lot, but it's just under the 180 that's included in Indiana Jones, and only half of the total of 300 in the complete saga. And when you consider those numbers, it becomes pretty quickly obvious why this was the free play that I found the most painless and simple. This was great. All of the Minikits that you find in the game can be fit into one of 6 categories. First up, we have the Riddler tokens. These work the same as the maps in Indy or the juice boxes in LEGO Star Wars. They're scattered around the level, usually in breakable objects, and once you find 3 of them, you get a Minikit. Fun, basic, simple, but it's nice because it gives you a reason to break everything in free play, which is pretty much hardwired into every LEGO game player's mind anyway, but now there's another reason to double check that you actually got everything. The next category is destructible objects. Like, a lot of the Minikits are hidden either behind or within destructible objects, like brick walls that can be torn down with strong characters, or boxes that need to be destroyed using an explosive character. These are pretty typical in most LEGO games, so I've come to expect them at this point, nothing super notable. The next way that the game hides Minikits are behind these toxic and frozen areas, usually in pools of the liquid or spraying out of pipes. Certain characters like Poison Ivy or Mr. Freeze have resistances, where all their characters just self-destruct while touching them. But interestingly, and more accurately, annoyingly, the way that this game determines your character roster in free play is slightly bugged. In every one of these old LEGO games where you don't have access to the full roster at any given moment, the game picks a set of 8 random characters for you to use. Most of the time, and in most of the games, the game gives you one of each character type, so you can theoretically get all of the Minikits in one run without needing to restart the level or swap characters. The problem is that this game counts poison and ice resistance in the same category, but most characters who have one of those resistances aren't immune to the other, meaning if you don't explicitly go out of your way to select an ice resistant character, you more often than not just won't get one. Once you realize this, you can get around it by just choosing a freeze character every time, which is slightly annoying because it means you can't pick the characters you want if you're going for 100%, but it's not that big a deal. It's just silly that you even need to do this. It kind of bugged me. The fourth Minikit type is one that you can find in every LEGO game pretty much, and that is character panels. In this game, there are only 2, however, the hero and villain, which is pretty self-explanatory. Another way Minikits are hidden is behind what I'm just going to categorize as movement areas, those being flight, double jumping, grappling, or acrobatics. The idea of all of these is the same, where there's an area that only certain characters can navigate to. This is familiar from other games like Star Wars, with the blaster characters having grappling hooks or Boba Fett having a jetpack. It's familiar stuff, still works here. But the final Minikit type is actually pretty interesting because it's unique to this DS version of the game and doesn't appear in any other LEGO game. When you first spawn in the Batcave, you might notice these little colorful circles and wonder what they are. Alongside all of the normal extras like the stud multipliers, quick build, those things, you'll see these 3 keys. Each of these keys correspond to a color of door that you can find within the levels, behind which there's usually a Minikit. Once you buy the key in the extra section, it just automatically unlocks all of of the doors, so it's kind of a one and done thing. However, I found it kind of interesting early on because there were multiple levels in the first act that I had to go back and redo because I couldn't afford the keys until I had unlocked more of the multipliers later in the game. I just thought that was a fun progression, makes you replay some of the levels, but not in an annoying way because you already know where you're gonna go. As I mentioned at the start of this section, there are only 5 mini-kits per level, which I have to reiterate because it just made this such an incredibly chill and enjoyable experience. Once you collect all the mini-kits in a level, you can go back to the Batcave to see a micro build related to the level you just completed. This is the same as in every other LEGO game, but I still find these builds to be pretty cool, just mostly because you can actually build them in real life, which is, again, true to the other games, still true here, just cool. There's also these Joker cards hidden throughout the levels, with each providing art and like a brief description of a character that you can view in the Batcave. These are usually hidden in the same places that mini-kits would be, so they don't have any unique function within the levels, but I thought they were still a neat addition since you get a bit of background on the character that I actually remember reading through as a kid. With all of that said, my overall thoughts on the free play were, oh my god, this game is awesome. I had such a good time playing through these levels again with random characters, exploring everything, taking in the world, while just naturally coming across the mini-kits as I played. Unlike the previous 3 LEGO DS games I 100%, I don't think there was one moment in free play where I actually had to repeat a level more than once to find a mini-kit. There were a few moments where I might have missed something on the first go, but it was usually because of the ice thing I mentioned earlier, and so I knew where they were and I could just go get them on a second try, which to me speaks to how well placed most of the mini-kits in this game are. I think this is a result of them only having 5. Like, only having 5 mini-kits to hide per level is a great benefit to the devs, just because it's easier to hide 5 objects than it is to hide 10. Unlike the previous games, there aren't any mini-kits that are just thrown in plain sight. Like, I remember in the earlier games, specifically LEGO Star Wars 2, they would just put mini-kits in random rooms because they didn't have a better place to hide them. That is not a thing here. Like, every single mini-kit you actually have to go through a panel or an action, or there's something you have to do to find it, which to some might seem predictable or boring, but for me I found it more consistent, and specifically in the case of trying to 100% the game on a time limit, this was really nice. However, the mini-kits aren't the only thing that you need to do to 100% this game, because there's also the stuff you access through the main computer in the Batcave, like buying the characters and extras. I found it pretty easy to gather enough studs to clear everything, because unlike some of the other games, this one actually lets you stack the stud multipliers, so you start gathering studs faster than an episode of Could Have Been House. I know we haven't made a joke in a while, sorry, I've just been explaining the game, we haven't been funny in a little bit, I'll come back to it. As you're playing through the game, you might notice though, there's a group of characters towards the bottom of the roster that are still grayed out even if you buy everyone else in the shop, and that's because there's another mode that's unique to this game, Villain Hunt. The mode itself is quite simple, you just spawn into a particular level and have a certain amount of time to locate a villain hidden somewhere inside it. Once you find the villain, you unlock them in the Bat computer and you can actually buy and play as them. What makes this so cool though is the specific characters that they put in here. The mixture of characters here is so random, but I love every selection that they made. There's some more normal ones like Man-Bat and Killer Moth who were placed here rather than being in the main story. Like, these were characters in the game, they just put them in here. But then there's some weird obscure characters like the Ventriloquist and Scarface, or Mr. Zazaz, who I still don't fucking know how to actually pronounce his name. But wait, can I just say, what an absurd fucking character to put in a children's LEGO game. Like, all of those marks all over his body are counting the number of people he has murdered. Glad he's here. You also get some other iconic Batman characters like Azrael, who was my absolute favorite as a kid since he has a fire sword. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Look at that thing. And Ra's al Ghul's here, which, as Vince Staples famously said,
Ra's al Ghul for sure dope fiend.
How you figure?
Because he was a white man who said his name was Ra's al Ghul. That's dope fiend.
The mixture here is so good. I'm just gonna list the rest of them because I can't do them all justice. They got Hugo Strange, they got Firefly, but like the one from the 2004 The Batman animated series. Not the Batman the animated series, but the show The Batman, the animated one. Black Mask is here, Hush is here, and they even got the Joker if he was chill. Finding all of the villains in this mode took me less than an hour, but the characters that you unlock from it are so strange, Hugo Strange, and interesting. They're just interesting and they give you sick parts to use in character customization, which I haven't actually mentioned until now because it's in almost every LEGO game, but it is also here. In my playthrough, I made this SWAT character I always used to make. I also tried seriously making Zatanna, which I think I did an okay job. In general, this game has an amazing character roster, which I touched on a bit into the intro, just talking about how it combined characters from a wide range of time periods. But seriously, look at this. You could play as Adam West in the same game that you can play as a Teen Titans character. I just think that reach is really fascinating to me, and I can't overstate that. In this minigame section, there are also these vehicle time trials, but they don't count towards the 100%, so I wish I knew that before finishing all of them. 100%ing this game was an absolute blast to me. It brought back so many warm childhood memories. This game means so much to me, I just can't put it into words. If I just look at the box art of this game, it immediately makes me feel like I did the first time I held this game, getting driven back from Toys R Us and reading through the manual for the first time, seeing all these characters, and just looking at every detail in the box, trying to imagine the world I was about to enter. Those feelings are something I'll never forget. And because of that, it is actually impossible for me to talk about this game in a fully objective sense. With that being said, I truly believe this is one of the best LEGO game offerings of its era. It really feels like the devs took everything that they learned from making LEGO Star Wars and Indiana Jones and just implemented the best parts of those games into this one. The environment and, for lack of a better word, vibes in this game are just immaculate. The lighting and textures all work together so beautifully to sell the feeling of really being in Gotham City, even when they're scaled up on a larger screen almost 2 decades later. These textures still look beautiful. The levels and collectibles are short and sweet, the character roster is top notch. I have really nothing to complain about with this game. I honestly think it does everything that a LEGO game should, and arguably meets that requirement better than some of the recent LEGO games that have come out. This game's also interesting because it's the last one in what I would consider to be the original era of LEGO games. Like, if we're breaking the production of these games into chapters, I would say Star Wars 2 is the pre-season because it's totally its own thing. It's almost like the pilot episode proof of concept. The complete saga Indiana Jones and Batman I view as a trilogy, which I say because they all look very similar and directly share assets with one another, although I can't confirm this. I assume it feels like they share the same engine. But the next game up is the first one in what I would consider to be the new era of LEGO games. Like, new as of 2008, not new, but I know I'm old. Fuck it. This is the first. We're getting to season 2. That was the point. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. I am sorry it took so long to come out. There was a while on this channel where I was trying out different stuff, exploring what I wanted the channel to actually be, and it seems like we've just circled back to what I started with anyways, which was LEGO. Like, that being the focus of the channel might seem obvious to someone on the outside, but shit, I didn't even know if the first LEGO stuff was gonna work, so I wanted to spend this first year trying to kind of feel out what else might stick, and as it turns out, it seems like LEGO is really the thing that you guys want to see. So, with that in mind, I am going to prioritize the 100% videos. That will be the core of what I want to do on this channel. I'm still going to do all the other stuff. Like, I think it's fun to experiment with things, but I want to try to upload on a schedule of, like, we do a 100% video, I put up a couple random videos, and then we do another 100%. I don't like how long the gap between the Indiana Jones video and this one is, so that won't happen again, fingers crossed. But yes, basically, you've made it clear to me you want LEGO, so you gotta get LEGO. You'll get LEGO. Anyway, I've already finished a good chunk of playing Indiana Jones 2, and that game is actually really short compared to the other one, so hopefully that video will be out sooner than this one was. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Go play a LEGO DS game if you can, and I'll see you in the next one.